Started. Great, I'll get started. So welcome back, everybody. This is our last session, but we're all on this ongoing quest to build a culture of empathy. And we're recording this session again for educational and also promotional purposes. So let's start with a short round of check-ins. Again, it's 30 seconds per person to share, and I'll just call on people who I see across my screen. So take 30 seconds and you can share any questions you may have from last week, any comments, any insights from the last session. You can also talk about how your empathy buddy call was for the week, or any experience from facilitating an empathy circle if you had the chance to. All right, so I'll call on people. Let's start with, I have Lisa. How was your experience?
Hi, everyone. I had a buddy call with Harini, and it went well. I really don't have much to report this week. I mean, we had a really good chat talking about just like our professional lives and the empathy calls and everything. But other than that, I feel like things are going pretty well. Looking forward to this last session.
Great, thanks for sharing. All right, Alyssa, you're next on my screen.
Just like Lisa, I don't really have much to report. I feel like last session, how it was really good. The challenges we had as the facilitators in training, and I look forward to more.
Great, definitely. Even though it's our last session, I think it's going to be another great opportunity for us to share and practice some empathy skills. All right, Harini.
Hi, I had my buddy call with Lisa. We had a nice chat. She gave me some things to think about. It was really nice. And I've been thinking about how to apply whatever I've been practicing here at work. We are at a very initial stage where we are coming up with ideas. So I'm thinking how I can use this there, implement this there. Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. All right, Aska.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I've had a busy week. I feel I've had a week off the week before, and then we went back to school, and it's just into the rhythm again. Yeah. And I look forward to today. And it's very warm. It's very warm.
Yep, summer is almost here, or it's here for some of us already. So definitely get outside, get some sun. I'm vaccinated, so I've been starting to go outside and socialize a little bit more. That's something to look forward to. Thank you for sharing. All right, Justine, you're next.
Hello. I had my call today with Julia, and it went really well again. Like, this kind of setting always brings nice conversations, I think, and really open and like honest. And yeah, I was sharing that I feel that I can kind of integrate the principles of the empathy circles a bit more in my life without, or yeah, like thinking about it more quickly or more naturally. But that I had also some moments in this week, because I had a very busy week and I was very tired, and some moments where I'm tired, I kind of don't really make the effort, or I cannot kind of separate things really well. And now that I'm here back again, I see Bill, and he said last time to try to kind of apply the empathy circle in my work. And now now I think about it and I think, oh, I forgot again. but it will come maybe next time.
Thanks for sharing. It's really nice to hear that it's more of a habit for you in your personal life, but it does take an additional layer of effort to bring it to your work and other aspect of your life. I'm experiencing the same currently. Thank you for sharing. All right, Francesca, we'd love to hear from you.
So not much to report this week. Elisa and I weren't able to meet and have our buddy call, so that didn't happen. And I didn't arrange any empathy circles or didn't have any opportunities. It's been a crazy week for me. I'm feeling pretty tired, so please bear with me. Thank you.
I empathize with you. I'm feeling pretty tired too. But it's really nice to see everyone still showing up and making the effort for our last session. Thanks for sharing. All right, moving on to the trainees and the trainers. Bill, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, didn't have an empathy buddy call this week. I've been doing a Thursday morning thing about empathy in schools, and that's been fun, you know. And one of the things I'm working on is to focus my my promotion. That's one thing that I have to learn. So in special education, we got kids, and by the time they got to my classroom, they've been rejected 3 times. So generally what that means for kids is that they're going to act out and reject you before they can be rejected. And so so that's why I think empathy circles and listening and this sort of listening would be excellent, because then that is a shortcut. You know, once they trusted you, and once you gain the trust of the kids and the family, then you could then talk about things. You could work them out, and there'd be less throwing of books and chairs and things like that. So I'm trying to pitch that, because I believe that proactively empathy circles, if kids could practice it for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the morning, that would cut down behavioral referrals and problems. So I'm trying to make that case. So that's what I've been working on this week. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. That's so insightful, to reject others before you get rejected.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do that sometimes. It's a protective mechanism. Like, I'm going to say no before people say no to me. So thank you for bringing some awareness to, how we feel in our lives too when we face rejection, and also a reminder to really have empathy for people and ourselves. That was really great to hear. Dominic, what about you?
Yeah, hey everyone. Not much to report as well. Elizabeth and I were gonna have a buddy call, but we had to reschedule it for next week because I think this week was crazy for her. I don't know. So I'm looking forward to that. I also think about last week, the past 2 sessions, about how like wild the circles are. So just want to give a heads up, it'll be more chill today, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for sharing, and definitely something to look forward to, a more chilled empathy circle where we can focus on listening and speaking. So it'll be less focused on gaining skills, but more focused on just really being able to share and listen. All right, Edwin.
Yeah, I had a empathy buddy call with Timothy this week, and got a phone call in the background here. And we talked about beekeeping. He's really into his bees, and I've done beekeeping. So we had a great check-in about bees and ins and outs of that. And next Tuesday, I have a big empathy cafe with some organization called Rebel Wisdom, and there's supposed to be like 60 to 100 people online for this empathy cafe. So kind of getting psyched up for that. And working on developing the training. Yeah, that's it.
That's exciting. That's a huge crowd for an online session to facilitate and manage. So best of luck with the upcoming event. All right, Timothy.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be back. Hello. I want to honor my partner. She and I practice empathy all the time, and just in this moment, she's away for several weeks. at work right now, so I'm missing her. But while I'm missing her, I'm realizing how much she helps me grow with empathy because she's so open. She just shares her life and her feelings and her emotions so openly with me. She's like a leader in our relationship. Because for me, it's kind of hard to get started. I need like a lot of safety or maybe some space. But she shares so much, it opens up, like she's so vulnerable and open with me. It opens up our exchange. So today I'm just feeling this deep gratitude in my partnership, my primary partnership, in our relationship, where there's just this bold commitment, and I'm realizing that she does that with herself too, self-empathy. And then she lets me in on it, kind of, but it's this mutual commitment, and it brings endless levels of fulfillment to me. So I'm just honoring her today. That's it.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for sharing that. That was beautiful. All right, I guess I'll go last. I actually forgot to schedule an empathy buddy call with Aska, so I do apologize. I'll follow up with you after our session and schedule some time to chat on Zoom. I actually had a conversation with my husband about, let's try to use some of the empathy circle skills in our conversation. And so he was supposed to listen to me and I was supposed to, kind of talk for 4 minutes. The first thing I said, he interpreted using his own thoughts and responded back to me completely not what I was telling him. So I was like, no, that's not what I said. And he's like, that's exactly what you implied. So that was very interesting, but it also immediately showed me, there's definitely this misunderstanding or miscommunication that exists in us, because even though we've been together for so long and he understands me so well, his understanding comes with his own perceptions of how I'm feeling at the time and how I perceive a situation, which is not accurate sometimes. So I can't get his full buy-in in this practice, but at least it's a start. So I really appreciated the opportunity this empathy circle has given me to kind of shed some light on, there is a communication issue. We are sort of talking at each other instead of talking to each other. So that's my insight from last week. All right, so I'll hand it over to Francesca. You raised your hand. Do you have a comment? You have something to share?
I have one short comment and one question. So I really think what we're doing here is rewiring our brain. So as we practice these skills of empathizing with one another, I really believe that our nervous system and our brain is being rewired in terms of our ability to really connect with one another and understand one another. So I just want to say that comment. And I have a question about the next session. So I've been trying to register for the next session. And so are we considered 12B cohort? And I go into 12B and then I register for the next set of dates? Is that how that works?
I could quickly answer that. This is a 12B, and then we'll have 12C, which will start in about 4 weeks.
So then I need to register under 12C then.
Right.
And when I go under 12C though, it says 12B sign up.
I'll check that.
Yeah,
I'll double check.
That's what's confusing me, because under 12C, when I look under 12C, it says 12B sign up. So if you can email me and let me know that, I'd appreciate it.
I'll post it here. I'll check right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. And thank you for asking the question, Francesca. Sounds like you're committed for the next cohort, which is awesome to hear. And if anyone is interested in continuing into the next cohort, continuing your journey and practice for Empathy Circle, definitely reach out to Edwin to sign up for the next available cohort or cohorts based on your availability. Okay, now I'll pass it on to Tim.
Hello again. We have about 8 or 9 minutes to pause and consider your questions. This is the last session of this particular cohort, and you've been through a lot. You've tested yourself in challenges, and you've connected, and you've tried this out with partners to varying degrees of success, and thinking about trying it at work, in terms of hosting an empathy circle with this particular structure, right? And participating as well. So I always come back to this thing, this kind of phrase that helps me in my growth. And that is, a good question will take you everywhere. A good question. And I'm wondering, for each of you, what's your good question that is on the frontier of your growth in leading empathy circles? What question are you still sitting with right now? Even if we can't answer it all right now, but what is the question that is on the edge of your growth in building your confidence to invite people to and lead an empathy circle in this particular kind of format? What is your question? I invite you to write it down, or actually bring it into your mind and your heart right now. And of course, maybe we can talk about one that's definitely burning, for the next 7 minutes or so. But please, what is your question? In other words, what would you like to know that would build your confidence, right? What would you like to know that would build your confidence and capacity to really thrive in offering an empathy circle in whatever setting you want? Your family, work, online, friends, neighbors, political empathy circles, right? As everyone's working on. So I'm just talking to give you a chance to reflect. Don't listen to me. I just want to pause and invite you to write down and consider your 1 or 2 burning questions. And I will stop talking now for half a minute. Once again, this basic question: what do I need to know or or have to increase my confidence in inviting people to and hosting an empathy circle? So
I'll
valuable.
start with my question. I'd
Yeah,
love
please
to
do.
hear
Yeah.
insights from everybody.
Yeah.
So one thing I realized that I feel very comfortable in our cohort attending all the empathy circles is that I don't know anybody personally in my personal life. And that gave me the confidence to be who I want to be authentically without worrying about, does anyone carry any preconceived notions about me? However, if I try to introduce this, something that I found extremely helpful, really valuable to people that are close to me in my life, they already know who I am. They probably have some, thoughts about me, who I am, in their own in their perceptions. How I find it much more difficult to share this aspect of something that I'm passionate about with people who already view me as a certain type of person. So how do I sort of break through that mold and bring something good to them with,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to I guess put it to words. Sometimes I do feel that when I try to bring this thing to other people, they may think, I don't need you to show me how to be better. And I definitely don't want my friends, my coworkers, my loved ones to think that way, that I know something better than them, and they may get offended before they even try to get to know, oh, Empathy Circle is really good, it's a great practice. They may think that, are you saying that I have no empathy for you?
Right.
Am I not a good friend? Am I not a good coworker? So yeah, that's something that I'm struggling with.
Well, everybody, I just want to, Lala, thank you, and name this as a wonderful question to follow after this particular cohort is done, and to study. And just it's rich because there's this principle, like people see us in a certain way, we don't want to see us differently, and people hear a request as a demand, or that they're doing something wrong, right? So there's pressure in relationships you already have established. So I have a partial little tiny bit of an answer coming up from my perspective. Would you like to hear that?
Absolutely, please share.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. Yes, I acknowledge this challenge. What I would start with is a bunch of I statements, just talking about myself. Hey, I'm up to this cool thing. I'd love to share it with you, tell you about it. What happened for me? For me, I'm seeing this. For me, da, 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 da. Yeah, I'm learning. Da, 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 da. And does that make sense to you? So I'm not talking about you, or I want you to, or will you do this? I'm not even making a request. I'm just connecting before making a request. Connection before direction, I guess, is the phrase that I like to use. So just to connect, I'm just sharing about my experience and seeing if this person's interested or not. And, and once that mutual maybe understanding is there, there's no reason for somebody to feel pressure, because you're not making a request and saying, hey, do this with me, So for me, that's a little part of maybe the puzzle of approaching folks that we know and see us a certain way. And, it's one little hint. How does that land with you, Lala?
I love it. I think, what you're proposing is that I share my learning and my growth with others and have them almost cheer me on, hopefully. If they're good friends and good coworkers, they'll be like, oh, great, it's really nice to hear. So hopefully they'll be sincerely happy for me that I am, to observe and hear about my growth journey. So taking that, I'm trying to accomplish this, and this is what I'm learning, and sharing that journey with them may be a good approach, instead of saying, do you want to do this? Do you want to be more empathic?
Yeah, at least to have the mutual understanding before making the request. Yeah. So that's just a little thought there.
Yeah.
But so everybody, I know we can't get to everybody's questions. We just have about 3 more minutes here before we transition. But do you see how we're exploring? Like, a really good question has a lot of depth to it, and we can start talking about it in that way, where we're exploring for what's next for each of you. So I'm just looking around the room here and just saying, what would help you, be more comfortable? And of course, as we know, a big part of that answer is practice. Lots of practice brings comfort. So that's part of the answer. But, specific questions. So maybe we have time, maybe we could hear just a couple questions that each of you are sitting with, and, and we can at least kind of document those. Anybody want to share the question that's coming up for you right now? Just, we can hear maybe 2 or 3 without answering them, but just at least hear them. Yeah, go ahead, Francesca.
So, what I've been curious about is in one of the instructions in terms of facilitating the empathy circles, it says something about not particularly being sympathetic. Like I think I saw that, not being sympathetic. And I guess a question I have is, there's such a thing as cognitive empathy, which resides mainly in sort of like the mind. And there's felt sense empathy, which, you can actually empathize with the person in your felt sense, and I guess my question is, because one of the things in one of the prompts we had when we were encouraged to lead or directed to lead an empathy circle was, what is the person saying behind the words, which is kind of directing our attention to what are they wanting us to know? What are they trying to express? What are they trying to communicate, right? So I guess I just want clarity. I would like some clarity between the 2 types of empathy, and yeah, they're two different scales, I think. So that's my question.
Right. So once again, we're just naming a few questions right now, and yet you're on a search. You're very close. There's lots of resources out there to find an answer. What other questions are coming up for folks? We'll just name a couple more. Just name it. Anybody want to share? Question you're sitting with? One of mine always, continues to be kind of like Lala's, how to invite people in a way that's warm and effective. That's one of my questions all the time, and having empathy for people, how they might hear that. Any others?
Yeah, it's kind of the same as you and Lala. It's how to pitch it to people, how to talk about it, how to present it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to tell or to say what it is, but it's when you experience it, it's very strong, and it's very strong, guys. Try it. That's weird.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Go ahead.
Just a quick suggestion. Just reflect without naming it. Just kind of reflect. Oh, is that what you mean? And things like that. Very short, and let it go. And then people start to experience you as a listener, and then that also addresses partially what Lala's question was, is that they start to look at you differently. And actually, I've seen this in street actions where, it's very politically charged and people are expecting a response, and I just reflect them. And then the whole energy shifts when I just reflect them and I don't criticize them or anything. You just start with, listening. Oh, you feel, oh, okay, great. And then leave it there. You don't have to do more. You don't have to push anything more. And then as you go on, you just look for the right time.
I love that. Bill, show it, demonstrate it. Don't even talk about it. What a radical idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, we should transition. We do have a planned, circle today to be able to harvest a lot of the training and learnings that we've had so far. So back to Lala. You're going to guide us in that.
Sure. So like Dominic mentioned earlier, today's session is just an empathy circle. Woo! Pretty excited. And so we're doing a few things, right? We're integrating your experiences and learning. So we're talking about it. And we're also harvesting your feedback about the benefits of the training. And we also like to hear what you'll do next with the empathy circle practice and training. So we'll do some of that. But first, we're going to go into the breakout rooms, and then we're going to be, actually, we're not going to the breakout rooms today, are we?
We are. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have 2 circles. Yep.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm explaining this correctly. So we're going to go into the circles, and then we'll also post some topics for discussion. So again, today's just empathy circle. We're going to go around sharing and expressing ourselves. So there are a few different topics. You can feel free to use them. Someone's also going to drop it in the chat. I'm thinking Ed, when you're going to drop those questions in the chat. So these are the topics for you to consider. The first one is, what are the most valuable learnings and benefits from the trainings? So you can reflect on that. And also, what are your next steps with applying empathy circles and building a culture of empathy? So what are you planning to do with what you've learned here? You can also talk about whatever is alive for you. So we always keep that there for anything that is more interesting to you at the moment. And each of us will take 5-minute turns. So we'll go till 15 minutes before top of the hour. So we'll have 45 minutes for debrief later. And then as usual, you get a 10-minute warning before the end of the breakout sessions. All right.
Great. Thanks, Lala. And we actually will do 2 circles because of the number of people. And so maybe we just do 4-minute turns because it'll be more per group than we had anticipated. So yeah, here we go. And we have 2 rooms and one will stay here. And so the first one, Lala will facilitate with Timothy's support, and the second one, Dominic will facilitate with Bill and I being in that room too. So here we go. And there's not much to facilitation since just timekeeping.
Hello, hello. Okay, so I don't have my note card that says time on it. So when the time is up, I'll just like wave my hands. Cool. Okay, how's everyone doing? Thumbs up? Good? Cool. Okay, so same thing. What are your most valuable learnings and benefits from this training? What are your next steps with applying empathy circles and building a culture of empathy, or whatever is alive for you? You got 4 minutes. I'll be the first listener. Does anyone want to go speak first? No? Justine, how about you?
Yes, sure.
Cool. Ready whenever you are. Ready when you are.
Yeah, just reading the questions.
Got it.
I think that the benefits that I felt most, it was to learn to kind of make a difference between what I feel and what the other person feel, because I think like I can listen to people and kind of, but then sometimes it affects me very much, like maybe too empathetic, or I don't know, empathic, or yeah, I don't know, but sometimes I get really involved kind of in what the other person say. So now with this circle, I feel I can make a difference between what the other is feeling and what I have and my background and my feelings.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a big difference with this exercise is you're able to see the difference between what you're feeling and what the other person's feeling, because the issue you brought up before was that you kind of feel the other person's emotions very intensely when you talk to them. Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's to understand that yeah, it belongs to me, what I feel, and even if the other person kind of triggered something, it belongs to me, and what I can make the other person feel, it also belongs to this person, even if we can communicate about it. But the feelings, it's something that is, yeah, it can be kind of, yeah, I leave this, I can hold it for you, but it's yours kind of, and this is mine, or yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that like even if someone triggers an emotion in you, it is still your emotion, and the other way around. If you trigger it in them, it's their emotion, and that this exercise is helping you like hold their emotions and support them, but not take it on as yourself.
And I feel that I can do this more and more. Yeah, as I was saying, yeah, naturally. And it's another way of also understanding the other person. If I understand that it's theirs and it's not something towards me, especially even if I can feel that it's like I take it personally, but sometimes it's not. So I can also listen and try to understand from another perspective instead of trying to respond because I feel kind of aggressed, or in a way, or yeah.
Yeah, so it's more natural, and it's easier to see where they're coming from when it doesn't feel like they're attacking you, is what I hear. And you're able to see what they're saying from a different perspective, even if like what they're saying kind of sounds like it's directed at you.
And the next step, I think, yes, I think I want to try to bring this training more daily, or to kind of practice it more. And I want to try to, yeah, I think I will ask my year group if some people would be interested, like just asking and see who kind of respond and is interested in it, or and try to hold one circle.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so the next step is to bring it into the daily practice and ask your peers if they would like to join in, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I will do a next cohort, but I'm not sure when or what yet.
Okay,
I'm
that's
like,
fine.
so perfect.
Okay, yeah, so the next step is to join a cohort, but you're not sure when or, you know, when the next time is, but yeah, that's your time. Thanks, Justine. So yeah, now I'm the speaker. Yeah, I'm the speaker. And then I will pick Ashka. Do you wanna listen for me?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. I'll time myself. And okay, go on. This is the first time that I've like helped train. So all my learnings come from that end. Can you just reflect that?
So this is the first time you've trained or been the trainer, and this is where your learning has come from.
Yeah. So it's interesting. As a participant before, I didn't really have to think of. I feel like responsible for making sure everyone feels like comfortable and heard, and I think that's another level of focus that I didn't have last time when I was participating.
So you feel it's different this time because you are thinking more of how other people are feeling. So there's it's different from when you were just a participant.
Yes, yeah, and I'm seeing that within like I do tutoring, so I feel that same sort of role when I'm teaching like kids do math. Just kind of make sure that they're feeling good, and it's like solving a problem where I don't really know what's going on in their head, so I'm just guessing. So it kind of feels similar because it's a teaching role here in a way.
So you working as a tutor for small children, and you are using it. You see the similarity between time in the classroom and here.
Yeah, and at the same time, I just took this same training right before you all did, so in a way, I feel more similar to a first-time participant than a trainer. So that is that's been interesting as well.
So you feel like I do, or as more than a trainer, you feel still as a participant in a way, or first timer.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the learning is that like I don't know, I didn't feel. I think the training is pretty strong in that after you're done with this and you understand the basic concept, training is like you could be a trainee if you'd like. So I guess there's not a crazy step up, and I think just being present is enough for the exercise, in my opinion.
So you feel that the training, like trainee, is very strong, and you that I could do that, or
Yeah. And for the next steps, I think I'm just gonna have to be a trainee again. Like I'm signing up for the Monday cohort because I can't do Saturdays after this, but I want to keep working on it and eventually become a trainer once I get a better grasp of the material, which I don't feel I have yet, but I'll work towards it.
so you want to continue on the next trainee cohort at Monday instead of Saturday, and to learn more, to be better, to grasp the material better.
Yeah. And I have like 5 seconds left, so yeah, it's my time. Thanks. Cool. I feel fully heard.
Lisa, do you want to?
Sure.
Cool. Oh, am I? No. I think I've learned that, learned that actually you can have. I'm very surprised about how deep your connection, or your relationships can be with this tool. It's very different from what I've experienced before. I think.
So you feel that empathetic listening can really deepen your relationships, and it's different than the previous ways of communicating.
So, yeah, I really see a big potential in it, and yeah, I had to, because I got so, yeah, I was feeling when I was in, like, talking to people or having a conversation with people where there is less kind of empathy in it, and then as I've said before, that I kind of withdraw from it, from something, because I feel there was a lack of, or I became like used to, or I got a habit of, there is a room where, or there is a world, situation where I have this very strong connections, and yeah, when I didn't feel that, I kind of, but this, because I knew another thing, and this, I have to remember that I have to go out there and like Bill says, kind of try to dig it in small cracks, or what you say. Okay.
So you come to the empathy circles and you feel empathy, but outside of the empathy circles, sometimes you don't necessarily feel that. And so now you're really exploring the idea of taking the empathy circles, or the culture of empathy, out into your real life.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's also just because I've explored this, then I kind of think, the world is, when I experienced it, then the world also experienced it, and then they are also empathic. And but no, it's a really hard one. So yeah, I really become aware that it's a process, it's a journey, and it takes time, and that's okay. Yeah.
So you felt like your subjective reality was externalized to the whole world, but then you realize that that's not the case, that they haven't went through this process that you went through.
And I think also about the next applying empathy circle. Yeah, I want to use it, as Bill says, like in a small situation, or in a very small amount, or how. So it becomes kind of more natural to me to kind of, yeah, as Timothy says, live empathic, live it. Yeah, and then also try to make it in the school with some groups.
So you're really interested in incorporating this into your life, so that you can see basically that culture of empathy come alive, and then you also want to incorporate it into your schooling.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, and I would choose Bill to be my listener.
Yeah, listening.
All right, so valuable learning. So I already knew about, like, empathy because of, I'm a psychologist. Rogerian learning is a thing. So I would say the benefit that I took from this is that I can use the skills that I learned in school and incorporate them in my relationships. So then, but I'm not being unethical.
Right. So you said that the learning for you is that you can take the learnings that you learned in school and then apply them in your daily life, but you're not being unethical. You're just,
Yeah, like a lot of times, as it's surprising how many people that I know who want therapy, but then want to get it from me. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. But being able to have the act of listening is something that you should have in every relationship. So I'm like, that I can do.
Right. So there are a lot of people like the doctor who's cornered at a party and asked to look at a rash. You're asked for therapy a lot, and that doesn't work for you. But reflective listening and things like that is part of just every relationship, and so you don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. And then I also learned that, well, and I kind of already knew this, that I don't necessarily love talking. I like listening. That's my strength. And so I guess I need to work on that.
So you're also looking at the balance that you don't really like speaking, but you like listening, and you feel that you need to strengthen your expressive language.
Yeah. When I'm very passionate about something, I don't mind speaking, but for the most part, if it's just general every day, I don't mind being kind of the wallflower or sitting back and letting other people be expressive.
So when you really feel strongly about something, you don't mind speaking. But other than that, you're content to just kind of sit back and listen, let others do the speaking.
Exactly. And then as far as next steps, I think I'm looking at like how I'm going to incorporate this into the things that I'm already doing. I do want to help people with improving their communication. I think this could be a big part of it. So yeah, I think that's something that I plan on doing.
So next steps, you feel that the skills learned here really can help people in their communication skills. And so you're looking to apply it in, various ways.
Yeah. I'm just still like toying with like how that's going to look as far as me being a facilitator. Like, am I planning on doing the traditional circles or doing it a different way? And that I'm not quite clear on yet.
Yeah, so you're just wondering whether you would do like the structure of the circle, or whether you would alter it, or just exactly how these skills will be incorporated into your personal and professional life.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what else to talk about.
Okay.
I think that's it. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. Okay, Edwin?
Yep, listening.
So one of the things that there are a lot of aspects to this. One of the things we say, it's not therapy, but it can be therapeutic. And so, and what that means to me is that in therapy, I believe it's really more directed. There are strategies, there are things that are going on that the therapist is doing and considering. But here, you're just simply listening, and out of that comes, possibly, beneficial therapeutic effects. I'll stop there.
So you're trying to clarify that this isn't therapy, but it's therapeutic. Their therapy is more of a professional, maybe process, but there's therapeutic, helpful things that come out of the empathy circle.
Right, and one of the innovations that you created and that I really appreciate is the equality, the egalitarian community that we all share here. We all have responsibilities. We all also get benefits. And that's really a very revolutionary idea as far as building a culture of empathy. And I'll stop there.
So what you appreciate of the empathy circle is the value of equality. It's like everybody has sort of equal roles and equal responsibilities too. And that's actually quite revolutionary, that sense of equality.
Right. And And every other revolution, I mean, through history or most, basically people are asking you to transfer an authority. Well, the old authority is bad. Let's transfer it to this new authority. And then the new authority judges you as to whether you, whether you need to, whether you should be celebrated or go to the re-education camps.
So you're saying that the revolutions in history is about power and authority. It just gets transferred from sort of one group, whatever, to another. And then there's, then there's sort of these re-education camps that can happen where you have to get re-educated to fit in with the new power structure.
Right. And of course, that's just, I date myself, but the Who, here comes the new boss, just like the old boss. You can reflect that.
Yeah, you're really tickled with the Who. There goes the old boss, here comes the new boss. So it's just more of the same, basically.
Right. And so I'm sort of diving down into the depth and why do we need this? Why do the authorities or the institutions that we create, why are they so fearful of their members?
So you're saying that the institutions, that the people in power have fear of the members of those institutions.
Right. And I feel that the great learning of these circles is that left to own device, nobody is telling anybody what to do other than very simply just, reflect what they're listening. You tend to see how much of that fear-based control issue is not needed. And as a matter of fact, counterproductive. I'll stop.
So in these power structures, there's fear is a big part of it to maintain the system. Whereas in the empathy circle, where it's not based on fear, it's based on mutual listening.
Right. Okay. And so I'll just say that then, to summarize, so that I start to feel that I can let go of that control and things will be okay. And I can trust the others. And then I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're seeing that when you develop a sense of trust in the empathy circle, you can let go of control. And so it's more of a trust-based, less control sort of relationship.
Thanks, I feel fully heard.
Okay, I'll speak to Dominic then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of learning, for me, it's incremental learning in terms of the training, kind of looking at there's an overall process and I keep seeing little things that can be sort of added or refined and it's very incremental. So there's sort of this quality of incremental learning and development.
So yeah, I'm hearing there's a lot of incremental learnings and development, like little things you're noticing here and there in terms of how to improve the training.
Yeah, like there's one was just in the previous meeting, someone mentioned, she's a teacher. She said, well, in the debrief, how about having just a recap of what we did? So we say, what's going to happen next week? But before we do saying what we're going to do next week, just a few lines of this is what we did today to sort of remind everyone and sort of wrap up the day. So, I mean, that's just like a little, thing to want to try to, improve the flow.
Yeah, so last session, a teacher at the end of the debrief suggested that we kind of recap what we did today before moving on to like, what should we do next time? And that's kind of an example of like an incremental change to improve the training.
And I'm also thinking of, I think Francesca who's saying, oh, I see there's sort of a change happening. And I think that is it. The more we sort of practice the empathic listening, it does rewire the brain, so neurons that fire together, wire together. So when we have this awareness of listening, like you're listening to me now, you're focusing, that there's neurons that are sort of firing and wiring together that make it easier, to do it in other situations. So kind of the more we do it, the more those neurons get wired for empathy.
Yeah, so you're relating to like Francesca's point about like neuroplasticity and like how cells that fire together, wire together, and that me listening to you now is cementing a pathway of awareness that, you know, builds up as we keep going.
And it gets easier because those connections, they get stronger, they get deeper. You know, there's a deeper groove sort of created that makes it sort of easy. So that just kind of ties it in with the science, you know. So
yeah, so not it also makes it easier in addition to making the connection stronger. It's easier for us to snap into this sort of awareness because like the grooves between the neurons just get stronger. So
and for the next steps is just keep working on the training, just keeping refining. I'd like to get it to the point where it's really easy for, you know, to kind of spread and others to take it, you know, and, you know, train others and just make it easier and easier to spread the practice as widely as possible.
Yeah, okay, so the next steps are to keep working on the training, make it easier to like spread and get more people in and recruit.
Yeah, I'm glad you're going to be a trainer too. So
yeah,
hope the rest of you too become trainers. So
yeah, I hear you're glad that I want to be a trainer and hope that the rest of everyone else wants to as well.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Cool. Sweet. So I talked to Lisa. Would you listen?
Yes.
Sweet. I'm gonna start my time, but I gotta think.
So you said you need some time to think.
Yeah, thank you. Well, when Edwin was talking about the cells that fire together, wire together, I was thinking about an interesting analogy that I was listening to on a podcast with a psychologist about how, like, if we think of like we'll stop there before we get into it.
So when Edwin was sharing about like the neurons that fire together kind of work together, it was reminding you of a podcast episode you heard of analogy.
Yeah, and the analogy was like a hill of snow, and if we have like sleds going down, there are those trails, and if we keep the sleds going down the same trails, the groove, like Edwin was saying, gets deeper. And I was just thinking about that, you know, the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill are two neurons. So just that picture came up for me.
So you're envisioning like a hill with sleds going down it and connecting the top and the bottom, and those are kind of like neurons, and the grooves get deeper as the sleds go down that hill.
And I don't know, I know we're recording this, but the podcast was on like psychedelic therapy, so this is a hot topic, but the psychologist was talking about how like psilocybin, for example, adds fresh snow to the slope, and like it helps with addiction for certain reasons, like kind of resets some connections, and then you can reform with different sleds going different directions and maybe weaken the addiction pathway.
So you're saying the psychologist said that if new snow is added to that hill, then the connections can be disconnected. Did I get that right?
Yeah, and the new snow is like a psychedelic used in therapy, like psilocybin, which would be like magic mushrooms. That's been used to treat addiction in that way.
So if the magic mushrooms, so you can tell, sorry, the magic mushrooms are like that new snow that can impact or disconnect those neurons that are connected with addictions.
Yeah. So I mean, that was just a thought I was thinking about when Edwin talked about neuroplasticity. Yeah.
So that's what was on your mind when you heard Edwin share.
Yeah, so you know, maybe this is its own form of psychedelic therapy here, just like in a different state of mind, you know.
So you're thinking about maybe this empathic circles or empathy circles could be similar to that psychedelic experience.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to see what our brains are doing when we're doing this. There are probably studies on it, but if we all had MRI machines and we could see our brains as a listener and speaker, I think it'd be cool. And a participant like viewing, I think it'd be cool to see how different brain areas light up.
So you're asking yourself a research question. If all of us had an MRI on our head while we're doing the our parts, how our brains will interact or light up.
Yeah, and that's basically my time. So thanks, Lisa. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. All right. Justine, would you be my listener?
Yes, I'm listening.
Hi. So I was thinking about the fact of using empathy circles with family. And I remember that first week I did do an empathy circle with my in-laws. And I can understand how that can be challenging, like Lala said, about like doing with people you know.
Mm-hmm. So your next step would be to hold up empathy circles with your family. And you remember that the first week you took the training, you did one with your in-laws, and you can relate to what Lala says about the fact that it's more difficult to do it with people you know.
Yeah, I'm toying with that idea of doing it with my families. I'm just not sure because relationships can be complex and I don't necessarily want to stir the pot per se.
So you're thinking of doing with your family, but you're not sure because your relationships are complex. But after that, I didn't really get what you said.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to stir the pot.
If you want to start
stir the pot.
Stir the pot. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So like making things maybe come out and see that it's actually complex.
Yeah, and that's my difficulty with like doing with the people I know is like maybe there's conflicts that arise and I don't want to be the one responsible for bringing that to the surface.
Mm-hmm. So that's something that comes out for you multiple times, that you don't want to be the person that makes the conflict kind of arise and be responsible for it.
Yeah, because it's like I already know it's there. So I'm just like, well, I mean, they show up when they show up, and I don't necessarily want things to explode. And then I'm just like, okay, bye, guys.
So you feel that like underneath or in these relationships, there are already conflicts, but that are not kind of talked out loud. And so you maybe you fear that if it comes out, like you don't know really what you should do, and maybe you would just like to say, okay, bye, like leave, or kind of.
Yeah, I mean, even when I did the in-law circle, at first I was really excited, but then after a while I realized, oh crap, if something really comes out, then I might be in trouble.
So when you did the circle with your in-laws, you were very excited to do it, but then you felt that things were going to kind of come out, and you didn't know how to react if it happens, or.
Yeah, especially since it's like this isn't my biological family, so I could be causing issues for my husband and his family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as it's not your direct family, you're also scared that it in kind of impact your relationship with your husband.
Well, for my husband's family, but I think for me now that causes some level of hesitancy when it comes to like family circles.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'd said for me now it causes some level of hesitancy when it comes to the idea of doing family circles.
There are some words I don't understand, I think. So from doing family circles, you feel that it's not.
Yeah, I'm hesitant.
Hesitant. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so you feel
I
hesitant.
Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, would you like to reflect?
Sure. Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have now something to say really.
Okay, you're not quite sure what to say right now. You're just contemplating.
Yeah. I don't know. Really, it's blank in my mind.
So your mind is blank right now. You're not quite sure.
Yeah, I think I can like to follow on what Lisa said. I haven't even dared to imagine to do an empathy circle with my family actually. Because I also know that there are conflicts, but that they're quite present actually. And it has been really hard to deal with these conflicts. Like there were not really resolutions. So now it's kind of there, but we try to not really dig in it. So yeah, we can reflect that maybe.
Sure. So your what Lisa said kind of came up for you as far as doing empathy circles with your family, but there's some minefields there, and so you're not quite sure exactly what would happen if you got into it. So you're just kind of, you're cautious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But maybe it would be, because I feel like if that would happen, it would kind of put us back in past conflicts. But maybe with this approach, it could actually change the way we communicate. But it's, yeah, I can understand that it's very hard to, yeah, it's like, okay, let's go again in this, or.
So you're having some conflicted feelings about doing this with your family. In the one sense, this process might open up new pathways of communication, but on the other hand, it might also bring up old wounds. And so those are the things that you have to, consider right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I want to first bring it to the places where I feel a bit more comfortable to practice before going to the kind of conflictual places. Bring it to with some friends, and sometimes you can reflect this.
Sure. So you feel that you need more experience before you take empathy circles into a situation where there's conflict.
Yeah. And sometimes I tried to do it with friends, like not to set the circle, but kind of just reflect some things to see. And because I thought it would maybe feel a bit strange or like obvious that I'm doing something that is not common. But then it didn't really. It was just continuing the conversation, like, yeah, that's what I meant, and blah, 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 blah. So
you've tried to do a little reflective listening without naming it with your friends, and you felt that might seem a little artificial. But actually what you found is that when you did that, the conversation just flowed on very well, and they felt heard, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Dominic.
Okay.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay. I'll talk to Dominic.
Yep. Ready we are.
So I'm going to kind of reflect a little bit on what Francesca talked about as far as cognitive empathy and then a sort of felt or maybe emotional empathy. I don't know if she meant that, but those are the two things. And one of the things that we say in the circles is that there's something else going on besides the content, besides the conversation. And that is, you know, and one of the ways that we show that is allowing people not to talk. Like if you just want to sit in silence for 5 minutes and I'll just sit with you, that's fine. No content, but that is a communication saying that whatever your emotional state is, I'm there with you. I'll stop there.
So you're reflecting on what Francesca said about cognitive empathy versus the felt experience, and relating to the saying in the circle that besides the content, there's something else happening. And you're relating that to the fact that if there's silence, we allow the participant to just sit there, and that regardless of the fact that there's no content, the experience is whatever the emotional experience is, we're here for you.
Right. And I think that's a very powerful thing, because one of the other triggers we all have is performance anxiety. What am I going to say? Is it going to be interesting? Is it entertaining, or whatever? And we're just, and sitting with silence means, as Mr. Rogers would say, you're fine just the way you are. I'll stop there.
So it's powerful because a trigger that we all have is performance anxiety, and worry about like if what we're saying is just about what we're saying, and the fact that we can sit in silence is how Mr. Rogers would say, like, you're fine just the way you are.
Right. That's the message certainly that I want to bring to our culture, because a lot of our decisions are based upon somewhat of post-traumatic stress. I did this and I got this reaction, and so I've got to do this or I've got to do that. Whereas in this process, there's a sort of ease and an allowance to be who you are. And so therefore, that shifts the experience when you feel you don't have to defend yourself every second.
So it's kind of an idea that you want to bring to the larger community, because it's I kind of miss the post-traumatic stress part, but it's a paradigm shift where we're fine just the way we are and don't have to defend ourselves in certain social contexts.
Right. So in my culture, I grew up in New York, and it was kind of like a game. It was like sport. You questioned everything. Like you went say, "Oh, sorry, I'm late." The Long Island Expressway was really trafficy, and then somebody would come back at you and say something. You were on the Long Island Expressway at 4 o'clock. What are you on, drugs? You'd be criticized, and you had to have an answer for that. Well, I had to go pick up, I had to go to the pharmacy and pick this up, or something like that. And you know how it is on, whatever, Jackson Boulevard or whatever. And so, and that's the way I realized that is I've been conditioned, and so I have to. So being in the circle helps me kind of let go of those old patterns. And that brings it back to the whole psilocybin sort of new snow type of idea.
Yeah. Okay. So the background is that you're from New York, and kind of the culture is always like you question everything. So if you're late to a meeting, say it's like Long Island, train is late, someone will kind of deny and criticize. And so I hear you saying like you've been conditioned to kind of be defensive in a way, and it kind of relates to the psilocybin new snow thing, where this exercise could be this new conditioning.
Right.
Unconditioned. Yeah. And that's time.
Okay. And that's time. Thanks. I feel fully heard.
Sweet. Thanks, Will. Edwin.
Yeah, listening.
Okay. Starting. That's first thought I have is off of what Bill said. It's interesting because I grew up in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I feel like the culture is just completely different from that.
Yeah, so you're really comparing the New York and California culture. Very different.
Yeah. And I read a funny quote online being like, what is it? well, like that San Francisco people are nice but not kind, and no, yeah, and then people in the East Coast are kind but not nice. Like we're polite over here, but like you don't realize you got insulted until you're like halfway down the block. Whereas like New York, they'll flip you off right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in the California, it's like people act nice, but underneath they're not so nice. They're flipping you off, and you don't notice it. And in New York, it's like direct. You just see what you get, and there is an underlying kind of a niceness there.
Yeah. And I just remembered a funny comic I saw. It's like there's two parallel frames. One's New York, or one's San Francisco, one's New York. Two guys talking to each other, and from far away. One of them from San Francisco says like, "Have a nice day," and he's thinking like "F you," and on the bottom for New York is like he says "F you" and he's thinking, "Bye, have a nice day." It's like funny. Yeah. You have to repeat that comic. So.
Yeah. It's the essence is people pretend to be nice and they're really not, and they're not caring. They're pretending to be caring. The other, they're pretending not to be caring, but they're very caring.
Yeah, so I think just that contrast is interesting. Yeah, and in a way, I think San Francisco is very nice, but I definitely have felt like there's a lot more passive aggressiveness that kind of I've been conditioned to have. And I've noticed that like a blind spot is my ability to kind of assert myself. So I see that very clearly.
So you see, you're sort of supposed to be nice and instead of sort of assert yourself, and you just see that in the way that you've been conditioned, or growing up here.
Yeah. And then
it sounds like there's a bit of a yearning to be more direct, or to.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I see a therapist, and like that's part of the things we talk about, kind of like that. Like I got myself in situations where I don't assert my boundaries, and kind of I'm like, yo, like I haven't been conditioned to kind of tell someone like, okay, I need space to myself, instead of like, I guess relating to Lisa, like I'm my therapist to my friends a lot because I'm not a therapist yet, so I can do it. So it's like that fine line of being like, okay, I need to study, I need to do whatever I'm doing now. It's hard for me to do that.
So people reach out to you to be a listener, and you have difficulty putting up those boundaries, saying, I don't have time for it, or whatever. It sounds like you also want to learn more to have those boundaries, or take care of your own needs.
Yeah, it's like I wonder if I grew up in New York, if that'd be easy, and maybe my problem, maybe I wouldn't be trying to be a therapist if I grew up in New York. Probably do something else.
Yeah, so if you'd grown up in New York, maybe you would have had those boundaries and you wouldn't have to worry about being a therapist, because you already would have had all those boundaries and that sort of direct mindset which you're trying to develop.
Yeah, and then I have a few seconds left, so thanks, I feel fully heard.
Okay, right. Speak to Asti.
Yeah.
Different cultures. Yeah, it's interesting. But the thing I'm looking at is the sort of the overall culture. We talk about empathy in the family, the challenge of it. How do we kind of implement empathy? And there's sort of this, or into the culture, and there's sort of these barriers to it. So it keeps coming up, keep hearing there's these barriers to it. And, how to overcome those is a big question.
So you think about the kind of the more overall structures in different situation, families, etc. And what are the barriers that come up, and why is that? And how to overcome it?
And it's the larger cultural barriers that come up, because we do empathy circles here, but then you go out into the real world, right? And you get, beaten down by the larger culture is not very supportive. So I see that as an issue. And you hear about that all the time. People go to workshops. Oh, it's so great. I have all these great insights. And you go out into the real world and you get the, shit kicked out of you. So.
Oh yeah, that's so right. Sorry. So these kind of more cultural barriers, and you have this experience about, we have a room in here, but when you go out, then you get kind of meet at the opposite or not.
Yeah. And you addressed it too with, you're in a group and it's not, people aren't listening really in the group. So I think of how do we change the larger culture? And I think we need cultural leaders, politicians, cultural leaders to be doing empathy circles to sort of model it, that we bring this into the larger cultural discussion. So I kind of.
You think about, or you think about that. You think we need kind of politicians that kind of do empathy circling, so it kind of drops down and becomes like culture from start from the top and goes down.
Yeah, that direction. So it goes in all different directions. We also have commentators, like here we have Fox News, which is very conservative, and then we have MSNBC, which is very, progressive. And to get the commentators to have an empathy circle together, I think would be super cool. So, that we have Sean Hannity, you probably don't know these people, Sean Hannity and Rachel Maddow, that they do an empathy circle together. And how do we bring them into it? Kind of put some pressure on them to have empathy circles, to model some different way of dialoguing.
So you come up with a suggestion more about these two journalists from each of their news platform, and to create a empathy circle, and how would that look like?
Yeah, to really model it, for the larger society. And I think we can do something to bring them into that too. So there's some kind, we need a sort of an empathic social action, more like, Extinction Rebellion. The Extinction Rebellion is like, you get on the streets, you're blocking traffic, you're occupying, a town square, and say, we want an empathy. So I think the empathy movement needs that sort of social direct action to have a cultural shift.
So you say that you think that to kind of to come out there where it's will grow, we need this or this social, the word was social
direct action
as Extinction Rebellion do.
Yeah. And the other is there's a UK show called Super Nanny, and it's this show about this woman she drives up in a London cab to this house, and they show that family totally total chaos, the kids running amok, running crazy. She comes in and she uses tough love to kind of put everybody into, put the household in order. So the whole show is her putting the house in under control. And we need something like that, like a super empathy nanny, just a show where we have someone goes into the house and teaches everyone how to do empathic listening, how the parents listen to the kids learn to listen to the parents. And, you have like, so I think a show like that would be really good too. Instead of tough love, it would be empathic. Yeah, it's my time.
Yeah, so you refer to this UK show Super Nanny as another example of how it could be, or what could be a solution, or an idea to how to get it out there.
Another strategy. Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Justine?
Yes.
I think it's very interesting what Edwin talks about, and I've also been thinking about it, kind of how to get it out there in a way. Yeah.
So I hear you say that what Edwin says, it makes you think about something that you also feel. about this question of how to get the empathy circle out this meeting.
Yeah, and yeah, and then I've been thinking about my education and how that's kind of structured, and how we learn, and how the kind of culture of learning in this kind of education, practical education, contemporary dance. And I feel somehow that this can be used, this empathy in a way, approach, culture can be used so in a way that will make learning easier and more interesting for everybody. Yeah.
So I understood something else first, so I'm not sure, but you said you connect this with how you learn in the education that you are in, and that using empathy would make you think that it will make people learn in a different way, more interesting.
Yeah, I try to think about what empathy, this kind of culture, would do in a room like this, in a a kind of creative space where you have to create and yeah, I'm not there yet. I feel I don't have the kind of, it's not very clear for me what is, but it's very interesting for me to and I really feel a passion about now actually, about like teaching and learning, and how this could be improved, and also to look at how we do it, and what this we do, which products or which, now let's say, which dances that we make out of this kind of teaching environment and learning environment.
Can I reflect this?
Yeah.
The first thing you said, I missed it, the first part. But so, yeah, you're thinking a lot about how we learn, and now you feel passionate about yourself understanding how to teach, how to transmit, and how the setting of a learning environment is made, and what it creates, kind of, and what kind of dancers it creates in the education that you are in now.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Fully heard.
Lisa, can you?
Yes, listening.
Already? I don't remember. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard when we get to the flow and the rhythm of life to come back to this way of communicating.
So you're noticing that when we get into the rhythm of just our everyday, that we can forget about empathetic listening.
Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes it can be so simple to kind of, in a situation when it feels maybe a bit tense or whatever, or conflictive, or I don't know if that's correct, but that that we can, like, I could think now, I could easily think, how could I use these tools simply by proposing to reflect, but that in some moments it seems it's completely out of me because my kind of old patterns come back and my defensive reaction also comes, and it's hard to keep this kind of confidence in a way.
So you're noticing in the midst of conflicts, you revert back to your old patterns, and that it could be useful to reflect back, but really it's hard to stay in that frame of mind when an issue has arose.
Yeah. And now I was also thinking about what Dominic said about the cultural way of expressing ourselves, and that I could relate that here now I'm in England, and it's I feel this way of communicating, and I feel that I'm starting to understand a bit better, but there is, I feel very much also this way of being kind of really nice and as a base to each other, a nice in a way, like polite, and that for me it feels very strange, or it feels like it's a blockage to access the person in a way.
So you're reflecting on what Dominique said about California and New York, and feeling like when you're currently in England or London, that you feel this politeness, but in some ways it's a block to the communication.
Or I feel that it kind of, it's a lot of it's something added that is maybe for some people something that makes the communication connect or something. But I need to understand that to be able to then go in the conversation, because at the beginning it felt very much like something that is added that we need to kind of get rid of to, okay, now we can talk, we can just talk about ourselves instead of like having this kind of level of a bit politeness or small talk kind of thing. Or
so it's almost like the politeness adds this surface level to the relationship, and once you can get past that politeness, then y'all can get into the deepness of the conversation and really get to know each other.
Okay, I didn't see you. Okay, thank you, Lisa.
You. So I will select Edwin.
Listening.
So barriers to the empathy circles, I think, as far as culturally wise, I think there's a large number of people who want to be heard, but don't necessarily want to listen. And I think that creates this barrier because the people who want to listen then feel like their opinions don't matter. And there's that conflict that exists.
So you're seeing sort of one of these barriers to listening is there's just a lot of people that want to be heard, and then the people who want to, who are willing to listen, that they get overwhelmed, or they don't feel like they're getting heard. So there's not they're listening, they're not getting heard.
Yeah, I think both, right? Because they listen, so they get overwhelmed by the amount of listening that they do, but then they also feel like no one really wants to hear them.
So the listeners feel like, hey, nobody wants to listen to me.
Yeah. And I think another issue, kind of like all of us have alluded to, is when conflicts arise, then we go back to our normal patterns of like, I'm going to protect myself, so I don't really care about listening to what you have to say.
So you're kind of going through sort of the barriers to listening, so it's sort of blocking it. And the other one is that especially when conflict happens, it's like, hey, I'm not going to listen to you, I got to protect myself. So people are going into protection mode, and that sort of blocks empathy or listening.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another one is also like, where's the money in it? Institutions want money. They're about capital. So is the empathetic listening going to help their bottom line?
Yeah, so here's the third block is that institutions, they want to see where's the money, show me the money, and they don't see the money in the listening.
Yeah. So those are the things that kind of come to me off the top of my mind as to barriers that arise when it comes to bringing this culture alive.
So you're just kind of laying out these, at least these initial 3 blocks to creating a more empathic culture in society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do think it was interesting what Dominique said about like if he was living in New York, he might not be a counselor. Because I don't know if it's necessarily a location thing versus a personality thing. Because there are people who live in New York who become counselors.
Yeah, so you're just addressing what Dominic was saying about becoming a counselor, because he's doing it for, you know, being direct and open. But even in New York, there are people who become counselors. So you just want to make a note about that.
Yeah, and not necessarily his why behind it, more so the personality type of people across the world that become counselors.
Yeah, there's people all over the world who become counselors because it sort of has to do with more of their personality.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, the reason I chose to do it, it was A, because yes, I was the listener of my friends, and B, because I really am passionate about helping other people.
So the reason you became a counselor was, one is you want to support your friends, and you have a real passion for wanting to be supportive.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I was listening to my friends, it was something that got me through one of the toughest times of my life. And so being able to be that for someone else.
So being listened to got you through one of your toughest times of your life. So
actually, me being the listener allowed me to get through one of the toughest times of my life.
So by you being able to listen to others actually really was supportive for you getting through some tough times, even the most toughest time of your life.
Yeah. I think it was because I didn't want to be seen. And so it's almost like I got to hide behind listening and also help other people.
So you're in the toughest time of your life. You didn't really want to be seen, but you got to sort of hide behind the listening and contribute to others. And sort of that contribution actually was helpful for you.
Yeah. So I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay. Great. So we have just 3 minutes. I don't know if Dominic, if you're wanting what you want to do with the 3 minutes, just open it up or.
Yeah, I think open up is cool. Like, how is that for everyone? Yes.
I can say for me, it's great to reconnect and hear all these insights. I just love hearing all these insights for everyone. Sort of like Lisa saying, it's just fun to listen. You know, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Just open to.
I'll be honest, I'm still conscious of the recording because there's some things that I would have said if it wasn't here. But I do feel like especially that last one, I went a little bit deeper than I usually do. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I appreciated hearing the insight as well from someone I could be later in like 10 years, probably be in your position career-wise. It's cool. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Yeah, Justine.
Yeah, just that I think we had very interesting conversations or sharings, and I'm very grateful. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bill or Ashka, anything?
Yeah, it's very great. I get a lot of good thoughts or from you guys, make me think a lot. It's very nice. I love it.
Awesome. Thanks. Bill?
Yeah, and I just felt that, you know, I have great appreciation for everyone here and how hard everybody's working on it, and how important this work is. We may be small, we may be a few, but that doesn't mean that it's not important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Thanks. I was definitely a little tired before this, but I feel very like energized now. So it's a good vibe. Thanks. Yeah, so we got like a minute or so.
Getting to close the room, so it'll be popping in about a minute.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. And I gotta check what I have to do.
Can I, Edwin, about the kind of the what you talked about, the modeling with the politicians and the Fox News and these people.
MSNBC, yeah.
Do you think it's how possible do you think it is, kind of?
I think it's we need sort of a movement to do it. I've gone to different conferences. You actually can meet these people at certain conferences, and now with COVID kind of opening up, I think there'll be more opportunities. So I think it's like any other movement. It's just you just keep working at it, and it's just like Extinction Rebellion. They had central London, shut down, so we can do stuff like that. I really see it. I think it's very possible. In fact, it's needed. So it's my sense.
Cool. Welcome back, everyone. I think this is everyone. We're gonna do 2 rounds of questions. I'm going to pose the first, and then Bill's gonna pose the second. First question is, I'm gonna post it right here. What did you like about the training? What were the benefits for you? And I'll time it, and I'll call on people. It'll be 1 minute each. Maybe, 1 minute. So just take 30 seconds to just think what comes up. Okay, I know that wasn't 30 seconds, but I'm gonna call people. I'm just gonna call participants first. So Lisa.
So what I liked about the training is I always like to be pushed out my comfort zone, and I felt like that's what this training did. And I like the fact that one of the areas in being pushed out of my comfort zone is speaking. So I do appreciate that fact as well. I would say that's also a benefit for me. It was able to like speak and not just always be the listener. And then trying different things, like again, having the circle with my in-laws, it really did teach me a lot about this experience. Thanks. I feel fully heard.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Oscar, you're next.
Yeah, the facilitating role of kind of with people that I don't know, and to be honest with them in an empathic way. So I feel I've been better to this kind of facilitating, and I want in bigger groups where I trust myself more and being honest to myself and more direct without being hard.
Great, thank you, Oscar. Justine.
So as I said, it helped me to I think the facilitating part still I have to train or to try to do it more, but what it brought me more, it's like this kind of new way of understanding a conversation and communication, and to separate the feelings of people, or of my feelings, and to kind of not fall too much or engage too much, to be able to listen to the other without taking it for me or personally, or to kind of feel it myself and not being able then to be there like strong on my feet in a way.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Justine. Harini?
Yeah. So what I liked about the training was first and foremost, the trainers when they made it very comfortable for us to open up. It was a kind and friendly place. I felt okay to be vulnerable and to share myself here. So that's what I liked, that it was a warm and welcoming and safe space. And the benefits for me were that as I learn to facilitate these groups, I see more of this responsibility and choice in me, of where I can apply all this. I see more moments of choice in my life to I listen, and I think that is the benefit that I have, and I'm already thinking about the different ways and the different areas that I can apply this. And so that is another benefit that I have got from this, I feel. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Harini. I'm glad that we were able to make this safe space. So awesome. Thank you, Francesca.
Hi. Oops. So for me, I just, it's just being able to be part of such a group where so many people are interested in cultivating these skills. So, the modeling of the trainers and the learning that I've gained in terms of, how to skillfully address situations that may come up in a group in an empathetic way. The benefits, well, the benefits are pretty immediate. I feel like, again, I shared earlier, is we're developing new neural pathways in our nervous system and our brain by actually participating in this kind of a practice. So I think it's just so being able to learn to relate in a way that really is healthy and functional and really provides the experience of connection. So that's what I'm getting out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect timing too. We talked about that idea of the neuroplasticity in our group. So thanks for bringing that up, Francesca. Okay, Elisa, you're next.
I was glad to attend today, and I always learn something new when I come here.
Sweet. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the trainees. I'll go back up. Lala?
I think definitely a lot of very practical skills I've learned just by participating in the cohort, but also, gaining the additional awareness with, if I'm listening, if I am being present. So that's also a behavioral shift that I've experienced outside of these training sessions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sweet. Thanks, Lala. Timothy?
Yeah, for me, I think today I'm just really aware of the companionship that this affords. It's like, for me to learn empathy, I need to receive it so that I can learn to give it to myself and others. So receiving a lot of empathy empowers me, strengthens me, but also being with other people that are studying the same thing and facing the same challenges, and just companionship, and I would even go so far as friendship. Like, for me, what else is friendship besides mutual deep understanding and care? So friendship and companionship along the way. That's really, really been that standing out for me today and participating in this training. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Timothy. Okay, cool. Now, Bill?
Sure. Well, I feel much the same way that Timothy just said, is that I really appreciate everybody trying to grapple with the same issue and trying to promote empathy in a time where it seems that a lot of people don't want to listen. So it helps me feel not so alone when there are people who want to listen. And and I think that's a great benefit. I do believe that we are changing our neural pathways. I believe that a part of the conditioning we have is to fear the other, and that fear comes from loss of control. And when you just meet people who are just suddenly interested in empathy, you don't know them, but they turn out to be very fine people, then you can kind of drop some of that unnecessary defense mechanism and start to really see possibilities, going together as a cooperative community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Edwin.
Yeah, I'm going to build on what Timothy and Bill said. For me, it's the same thing as that sense of community. Like we have a shared intention to see on the screen all these faces, all these people from all over the world working towards this same intention of creating a more empathic world, a more empathic society, more empathic relationships and families. It's just very it's very heartwarming, and I don't feel so alone. I think that was also mentioned, you feel, hey, there's a community here, there's all these people, and I think at the core, yeah, it's connecting to that desire in everyone just for deeper connection. So that's the one part. The other part that I really appreciate is the incremental learning. So I learn from everyone. It's like, I hear these beautiful insights and comments, and it's just feels like I really grow just from hearing everyone share their own experience, and also the gaining more insights to keep building, kind of incrementally, building this empathic culture. So yeah, that's me.
Great. Thank you, Edwin. And I echo what Edwin, Bill, and Timothy said. I'm not going to repeat it all that again, but yeah, the community and feeling included and great. And in terms of an added benefit for me is I'm like taking my first steps into the psychology realm. Like I want to enter that field, and meeting people with like-minded interests, as you all said, is really impactful for me. And I think, everyone has their own story. So learning from Lisa's experience as a psychologist herself, and, Timothy's as a counselor right now, it's cool to just, like Edwin said, gain insight for me personally. Yeah. Thanks. So now I'll pass it on to Bill.
Okay. Well, their second question comes, when we started this, we talked about the values of a culture of empathy. And so we talked about empathy being at the center of such a culture, and important core values that we have are empathy, mutuality, openness, and care. Again, this is not meant to be, the final list. You might have some other things, that's fine. But basically, I think it points us in the right direction. And so one of the things that's different, and I think, Francesca talked about cognitive empathy, and versus sort of like the experiential empathy that includes your emotions and a full range. So I liken this, the analogy I make is between, with one eye, we see something, but with two eyes, we add depth. So we introduced these ideas of care, openness, and mutuality, empathy at the beginning, and now you've had an experience. So I just wanted to ask, the question is that how does then your experience, how is that deepened or given you new insights? And then also how you tend to, bring that forward, and what has that experience given you that you feel good about kind of, spreading. And I know that some people have mentioned some of that already. So essentially, care, mutuality, openness, obviously part of empathy, and then the experience you had. And how has your understanding shifted maybe from the first times you heard these words before you took the training? All right, and I'll just go around my screen indiscriminately. And I'll start off with Dominic.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how has my definition of empathy changed? I think before I thought empathy was more of how you imagine something. Like I can imagine myself being in certain shoes, but I think like that experiential aspect is just grown on me. Just the idea that empathy is not a thought experiment, it's like an action. And my next steps with applying empathy circles is just continue to be a trainee, eventually become a trainer, and then bring it to different circles. Like I have ideas of groups I want to bring it into, but I think I want to feel super confident that I can hold my own by myself first before I bring it into like a, I don't know, like there's like a business context I could bring it into, but I don't, just to introduce the idea. But yeah, so I got to practice more, teach and stuff.
Thank you, Dominic. That was great. Lisa?
Yeah, so my next steps, like I was telling my group, I'm still a little gray on how exactly I'm going to incorporate it. I do think that I have talked to my husband about potentially doing some empathy conversations with him. But I'm still not clear as far as like what I'm doing business-wise, how I want to incorporate it. I'm not sure if I want to do family circles. So I'm still toying with the idea of how it will look in the future. But I do plan on continuing it. It's just, I want to be intentional about how I go about doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thank you, Lisa. So I want you to know you're accepted by being in the process. You don't have to come up with a, you know, a definitive answer. Aska.
Yeah. I think that I can really feel a difference in me, and I'm more sensitive to it now, which is good, and there's a lot of work to do for me also. I have some old habits that I'm not very happy about, that I fall into, and I think here I have a tool to kind of to work with it, and then I'm thinking also doing cohort more, and then also taking it to the school or to my school, or start to doing it with my friends first. So first my friends, and then my family, I think, in that way.
Great, thank you, Aska. Justine?
Yeah, I was just thinking now about these values. And I think that the next step is also to kind of continue trying to put these values as something that is very important for me, and that sometimes I think I tend to, how to say, like maybe think that it's not something that is so important, or I don't know how to say it, but to kind of have more confidence to really being kind of an activist about these, like yes, I think that caring is very important. I think that like all this culture, like mutuality, openness, it's very important, and to kind of fight more for it in a way, or to assume that it's like something that I want to share or whatever. So yes, this, and also I think also trying to understand how this can be in a conflict situation, I think, because this is still not easy, I think.
Great. Well, I hope you find support from this group while you kind of work with that. That's part of it. Timothy?
Yeah, I'm not having, I'm just enjoying listening. I'm not having any really strong indications. I think I'm already doing quite a bit. For me, the radio show that I produce is most exciting because I want to demonstrate authentic empathy on the air, on the radio. And that's been happening in some of my episodes, but I want to up the game so that there's even more emotional intensity to the demonstrations that I offer on the air. So I'm going to be pre-recording some empathic exchanges for people in conflict, and then playing it, and then letting people pausing it, and then explaining what's happening about empathy and pointing empathy out and asking the listener, how could you express empathy to this person in pain? So that's pretty fun for me to think about that. And that's a big project right now. But it also, and it's also happening at my work, my regular work. I work in a big organization. And in that organization, there's many small groups that are trying to champion people listening to each other. And I seek those out naturally. I find those groups and I offer my help and I say, hey, can I join? How can I help? And just yesterday, I received an invitation to become more of a core team member to create giant empathy circles at this large organization, or continue to create them. And that's amazing, just because I let people know that I was interested, and I also showed up and listened a lot, and then just offered my encouragement and my enthusiasm and my insight. So I just started talking and sharing. And so I guess that's starting to blossom in my work environment too, in a large corporation. So there are possibilities there, and it's happening for me. And as I said earlier, just really honoring the little bits of practice that I can do with my partner, every day on purpose. So thanks.
Great. Best of luck to you. And that sounds great. Harini.
My first next step is going to be what Bill said, demonstrating being a good listener and getting my way into people that way. And then I actually want to do this in my native language. I speak a different language, but I have been thinking about it for a while. But the problem is I don't have the vocabulary for it in my own mother tongue. I don't know how to, I do speak the language every day at home. That's my mother tongue, but we use a lot of words from English. It's all mixed together. That's how we have always spoken this. So for example, I don't even know how to say I feel fully heard in the context, in that sense, in my own language. So how do I take it to my family and other people who don't speak English? So that's something I want to do, and I don't know, I definitely I should get some help with that, even with framing the language and the words, I think, to do that in my language. So maybe that would be my next step. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, there are empathy circles going on in Polish and French and all different language. It's easily adaptable. And please use us as a resource to help you if we can be of any help.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lala?
I am going to continue to look for ways to create instructional design materials that'll streamline the learning experience, further define learning objectives and goals to meet learners at different stages of their journey to empathy and gaining more empathic skills. So I think it'll be fun to be able to get creative, create different e-learnings and videos and learning aids and things like that to really promote the practice, but also to raise awareness and bring some clarity as to how to approach and how to learn effectively. So not to just see this as something that, oh, I need to be reminded to have empathy in my day-to-day life, but also, create promotional materials or learning materials that help to raise awareness that this takes considerable commitment and effort, and you need to practice, and you need to go through the experiential portion of it to be able to gain the skills and fortify them throughout your learning journey. So that's something I have to plan and, you know, execute over the next few months, hopefully.
Great. Thanks, Lala.
Mhm.
That sounds great. Francesca.
So for me, I think I'm going to take my time with this. I don't have any major goals in terms of, you know, what I'm going to do in terms of facilitating empathy circles immediately. I think I just want to immerse myself in the experience more and take my time developing my own skills, and you know, find moments, you know, here and there where I can practice, you know, practice with others. And yeah, I just really feel like I want to be saturated with it. And I think I have a lot to learn still. But I would like to do the training at some point, and I'm definitely going to do the next cohort.
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing you. Okay. Alyssa?
Yeah, I would ditto Francesca. I just I want to keep learning about this. And I mean, I do, in the far end, I do have a couple of empathy circle ideas, but I think in order for them to go successfully well, or at least for them to have a good solid foundation, I need to feel comfortable completely with the process, and so I could model well.
Great. Well, thank you, Alyssa. I know that your dedication and attendance has been really great, so I'm sure that you'll finally, you know, you'll get to where you need to go. I really respect your dedication. There is a question quickly, but Alyssa, about Spanish or French empathy circles, which I don't have the direct link to, so I'll kind of refer that to Edwin. And that might be another resource that we would start to develop, where on the website you can see here's an empathy circle in Spanish, French, Hindi, and the version of English that the Australians speak. Edwin.
Yeah, for me, I just hold the intention of a culture of empathy. It's sort of like a guiding light, kind of gives me sort of an orientation in the world. And I just sit with that intention, keep looking for opportunities to sort of manifest it. And I think the training is really glad to hear Lala talking about the development of the training. And, you know, you did a lot in creating this and have done so many cohorts, Bill. And so it's just to keep kind of expanding, growing. And I just see it sort of as an incremental growth. You just keep working at it, keep working at it. I think somebody said, Edwin, you have persistence. I think that's true. Is it just, you know, if you want to make sort of a cultural change, it's just, it becomes a way of life, and it takes a lot of persistence. And it's also fueled by just seeing, experiencing what empathy just does. When people get heard, I mean, I feel like I can connect with anyone in the world, no matter what their background, you know, by having an empathic listening and empathic relationship. So just to be able to see everybody's humanity is just feels good to know that the world is sort of based on, you know, at the core, if we can hear each other, it just kind of opens up our common humanity. So that's a real motivation for me, and just to, yeah, just always looking for sort of opportunities to move it, you know, the sort of this mindset forward. And yeah, so that's me.
Thanks, Edwin. And for me, it's we talk about the experience. Like, one of the things that we say is that we'll sit and just be with you in silence. Sometimes people say, what am I going to say? And you say, that's right, sit in silence. You got 5 minutes, it's yours. And that is a communication. That is part of the experience. So for me as a teacher, you know, what is that experience? So I hope to illuminate but that experience so people can see it, but not put it into a straitjacket so that it's like, it's too rigid. And that's what I'm looking for people to have the experience and also value the experience, even when nothing's being said. So in closing, I'll pass it back to Dominic.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So I'm gonna post. There's some homework. Before I actually post that, are there any trainer final comments? I see Edwin has.
Yeah, I have a couple. So the first one was came up with the topic of cognitive empathy, affective empathy. There is a real issue with definitions within empathy, that there's people use the word differently. The terms overlap with other concepts, and it's a bit of a mess in terms of what these terms mean. And even the terms cognitive empathy and emotional empathy are actually newer, more recent, kind of terms. So it is a bit of a confusing mess, and I see that there is a real need for the definitions are all out there. They're just not placed into a clear, easily accessible typology, and that's really something I think for the empathy movement to move forward, to have a clear sense, like in terms of cognitive empathy, there's different definitions even within academics of what cognitive empathy is. And it's a bit of a mess. I could spend probably an hour kind of unpacking the whole thing. But I do start with as the first step, as the work we're doing is really based on the work of Carl Rogers and his empathic listening. And his definition was kind of a first step definition was sensing into someone else's experience and following them on their journey. And that's what we do when we listen. We're present with someone, we're accompanying them on their journey. And I think that's a real, in terms of definitions, a real good first, starting place. It gets more complicated after that, and that's kind of the more extended version. So I just did want to address that issue since it came up. The other part was the next steps. So we have this cohort, the cohort 12 will have 3 sessions, at least 3 sort of open empathy circles for the next 3 weeks. And we do want to get about 22 participants before we start the next cohort. So we'll have to see if we can get enough participants. We would start the next cohort on Saturday at that would be in 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks. And then we do have the Monday Empathy Cafe and empathy training. We have 2 more sessions there, and then we'll be doing like a 3 or 4 week open empathy circles, and the next cohort will start there. So those are the 2 cohorts that are sort of going forward, and you're welcome to join any of those, as well as come to the open empathy cafes, and bring your friends too. Bring your family, that's it. If you're worried, like, how do I bring this into my family? Say, hey, come to an empathy circle. So we'll kind of help you out there with the facilitation. If you got any challenges with, your coworkers or whatever, bring them into the empathy circle. So those are just some kind of next steps, possible next steps there. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and Bill?
And when we talk about changing and revolutionary change, I just want to point out the revolutionary nature of this training, in the sense that usually when people talk about revolution, you have to basically hit somebody over the head with a stick, and then everything will be great. And we're kind of eliminating that middle part, and we're actually creating the culture that we want to see. Some people said, be the change you want to be. And I think that everybody in this training did that. And I just hope, I really appreciate it, and I hope you all do as well. And that's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. Okay, so, Timothy, yeah.
Yeah, cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, whatever. I want it all. I want somebody to resonate with me, to accompany me, to understand what I'm saying and what matters to me. That means my feelings and my values. I just want resonance, like connection. And so, like, that's what I want. And that's what I try to practice. Another word for that is warmth. It's like, yeah, understand what I'm saying and the concepts in my story, of course, but that's cold. I want some warmth. How do I feel about it? What matters to me? What are my values? What's my humanity saying? What's it like to be me? What's it like to be me? And then I feel fully heard. So that's what I'm shooting for. That's what I want to see, and that's what I want to give. And I know it feels damn good, as they say. So on both sides. So that's my final thought. Let's keep practicing, and just go for it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Timothy. Okay, so I see there's some chat messages going on. I'll just wrap it up. So I'm posting the course feedback form. Please do that. There's also the next cohort sign up link. And then if you can, just post one little feeling that you have right now, and then we can do the jazz hands and head out. So I'm feeling happy.
That's actually, that was the wrong link to the next cohort. Let me, that was like an old link. Let me get that real quick.
Okay, yeah, Edwin will post that. So I see appreciative, alive, tired, hopeful.
Yeah, that's 12.
Divinely disturbed, tired, and calm. Okay, yeah, and then Edwin just posted the sign up link for the next cohort. I think everyone posted. So should we jazz hands out?
See you in the next cohort.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you in the empathy circles.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Everybody, thank you so much.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Let's do this. Go, 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 go.